This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. And now your special guest host, Anthony Germain.
Good morning and welcome to Open Line. Here we are, Tuesday, July 29th, the day before Regatta Day Eve, the soiree of Regatta Roulette. Sitting in for Patty Daly, Dave Williams here, the producer, to help me hopefully deliver another fine show. A lot of fun yesterday, lots of topics. I hope many of you will continue to call in with your thoughts and memories about Regatta Day, what it means to you. Big social event of the year for so many people, major celebration at the lake. A few critics saying it's not what it used to be, though. Too much emphasis perhaps on games and food and not enough on the actual rowing. Be interested to see what you think. But I have to say, 207 years going strong. Change, of course, inevitable. Your thoughts, favorite memories, suggestions for improvements. The numbers to call here in Metro, 709-273-5211, 709-273-5211. And toll-free 1-888-590-8626. Okay, a big topic that has a lot of people talking, of course, Marine Atlantic ferries and the decision yesterday, actually, towards the end of Open Line. Prime Minister Mark Carney was in Charlottetown making some announcements. And the big one, of course, was about keeping the election promise to cut the travel fees on Marine Atlantic on its routes from Nova Scotia to here by 50%. So that applies to passengers and vehicles. If you made your bookings beyond August 1st, good news. As you've heard in the news this morning, you'll be getting a refund. Marine Atlantic asking people to be patient, though, as it kind of wades through all of the bookings and figures out how it's going to do this. So if your travel was in July, to quote Maxwell Smart and to completely date myself, missed it by that much. Passengers and cars, a reduction of 50%. Cabins, they won't be seeing any reduction. And you know in the past, if you've tried to make a booking, you have to snatch those cabins way in advance. So no surprise there, I don't think. I don't see too many people commenting, oh, they should have included the cabs anyway. But part of Carney's announcement that is getting looked at a little more critically has to do with freight and transport trucks. For now, those rates will be frozen. They won't be going up, but then they won't be going down by 50% either. Now, yesterday, Corner Brook MHA and Provincial Cabinet Minister Jerry Byrne called in. And part of his commentary was to reiterate the argument about Ottawa's constitutional obligations and past promises to this province. And the point that he was making in the case that I think has some weight to it is that if Prince Edward Islanders are getting a break on the cost of going over the big Confederation Bridge for their transport trucks and all of the goods that they bring, then the same should apply for transport trucks that are bound for this island. I know during the election campaign in April, many tourism operators here were saying that they hoped the Marine Atlantic ferry reductions would come quickly in time for this summer's tourism season. But here we are, end of July, still better late than never. 50% is 50%. A family of four looking at keeping $300 to $400 in their pockets per crossing. So this is good news for travelers. I suspect truckers and the trucking industry perhaps not as keen on the announcement. If you're in that business, please don't hesitate to call the show. Love to hear from you. Or if you're a frequent user of the ferry service or a tourism operator, you've got family coming over, what do you make of the Marine Atlantic announcement? And later on the program, we'll touch base with this province's only federal cabinet minister, Joanne Thompson, a minister for DFO. We'll talk about that and other matters later on Open Line. So that's one topic if you want to weigh in on. I'd love to hear from you. Canada Games. All right. Athletes from across Canada. Be interesting to know, right, Dave Williams, like how many will be actually using the ferry versus flying here? I suspect if you're a family, you want to come and cheer on your young athlete, you'll probably opted for the ferry, and I certainly know Marine Atlantic saying that the Canada Games partially explains why they've seen such a big uptake on ferry services this year. But coaches, family members of athletes, we are about to be inundated with all kinds of people from every province and territory next week. So a lot of attention is on the regatta for the next 36 hours. But once that's done and volunteers work their magic and clean up the aftermath, and I got to say, every year at the regatta, I kind of see, oh my goodness, looks like Woodstock happened here. And then the next day it's all cleaned up. So those volunteers, good people who volunteer for everything, then they'll shift their gaze to the Canada Games, which is an even bigger logistical undertaking, I think, than the regatta is. So very busy time, very busy end of July, very busy start to August. And as you know, both the city and the province have offered some time off paid. The city, if I recall, 8 hours per week for a total of 16 for volunteers who choose to volunteer or work both weeks. The province offering 6 hours of paid leave where that's actually feasible. Now, having covered a few major sporting events, international men's and women's hockey, a couple of Olympics, national teams volleyball, to pull off an event like the Canada Games does require an army of volunteers. And I know the number of 5,000 that they've reached that impact, I think that it's been surpassed, which is great because they are really needed. And I know that you've heard people call in speaking with Patty about this, but they really are ambassadors for the city of St. John's. Don't forget that sports journalists, general reporters from every province are going to be here, not to mention the national journalists focusing on different athletes, different venues. But as a reporter, when you cover an event like this, most reporters eventually, they'll end up talking to volunteers in one capacity or another, either directly for an interview or just to get help knowing where to go, suggestions of places to see, how to get to venues, what they should do on their downtime. So that's, actually a key role in order to make people feel welcome. And at these kinds of events, a swag bag is kind of a nice kit. Pins, T-shirts, jackets, water bottles, all sorts of mementos of the 2025 games to mark the event. They're one of the small perks that are usually handed, and they're quite meaningful to a lot of people because it's something they'll have to remember. Now, some questions have been raised now about whether all volunteers will get the same kits or if younger volunteers simply get the T-shirt and that's it. Now, perhaps you think this is petty. Maybe you think it's unfair. You can try to control costs when you do games like this, or maybe you're really excited for the games to start, or perhaps you're going out of town. I did get a few emails from people who are heading out of town who are not regatta fans. Somehow I think the games might spark enough curiosity and excitement for people to stick around in significant numbers and enjoy really seeing some of the best athletes that Canada has produced, people who you will probably see in Olympics. That's what's always interesting, I find, is when you get people who come from different sports, whether it's swimming or other sports, and you say, oh, wow, that's somebody to watch. Anyhow, Mayor Danny Breen will join me in just a bit to talk about preparedness, and we'll dive into that. Maybe a few questions about construction around town, too, and possibly one about another topic that a lot of people are talking about, and that is these speed radar cameras. Okay. I know for some reason there are people who are not happy with the decision to finally follow the lead of other jurisdictions and put in these speed cameras, 2 on Veterans Memorial, and I don't have to tell you about the carnage that we've seen on that highway over the past few years. That's actually a road where I was affected by a family member who unfortunately is deceased by an accident that happened there. So to me, that is a no-brainer. One near St. Mary's Elementary on Waterford Bridge Road, one of the prettiest roads in St. John's, which unfortunately sometimes mistaken by a few drivers, not a lot, as some kind of dragster track by some motorists, but certainly anecdotally seen some driving on that winding road that is a bit mind-boggling. There'll be 7 more cameras added in this first batch of 10, with the 4th one soon to be added, I believe, to Larkhall Street near the 2 schools that are there. Now, I've seen some comments online from people who say they don't have so much of a problem with a police cruiser and an officer being there with a radar gun, but somehow this 24/7 monitoring is excessive. And I'm thinking, when you see some of the complaints about the increase of certain kinds of crime, don't these cameras make sense not just as a way to hopefully suppress the speeding, but also just as a better use of police resources? You take Waterford Bridge Road, for example. Over the years, the city has tried, I think, what it's euphemistically called traffic calming measures, including speed bumps or quasi-speed bumps. The behavior, though, hasn't changed enough. So maybe these signs, and that's the interesting thing, is it's almost like the alarm system in your house. The sign in the window, almost more than the alarm system itself, is actually, I think research has indicated, that's what prevents a lot of break-ins for homes that have the signs saying they have an alarm system. And by the same measure, it's the signs with the camera with the flash bulb saying, smile, you've been photographed doing 60 in a 30-kilometer-an-hour school zone. That seems to be where these things work. Now, in fairness, I have heard, and I've certainly read on social media from some people who seem reasonable, that these cameras are an overreaction, that it's a response to the same people who complain about things. I don't know. Anecdotally, I live close to the place. I've certainly seen people making that trek down towards Water Street from Waterford Bridge Road, and they're not always doing the speed limit. I do get the issue, though, if somebody else is driving your vehicle and click, that's the picture. It's not really you. Car's in your name. That really does seem to bother some people. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on these new speed cameras. Soon there'll be 10. I know a lot of listeners to Open Line spend time in Alberta. That province actually rolling back radar cameras. They're taking them off the highways, keeping them in school zones. They've gotten rid of the ones that used to be at stoplights, I think. And now municipalities in that province saying, hey, we're missing out on the revenue. So there is also a revenue factor here when you've got basically a police officer who's working 24/7 in the form of these cameras. So it's kind of an interesting topic. Call in about that if you like. Also, back to Prime Minister Carney in Atlantic Canada, Prince Edward Island yesterday. I'm not surprised. The Prime Minister, while he was making these announcements about the ferries and the Confederation Bridge, he was asked about this Friday. As I mentioned yesterday, that's the deadline that Trump has imposed for the negotiations about these tariffs, with that deadline looming. If there's no deal, Trump has said that the blanket 25% tariff imposed on this country, with the exception of the goods covered under the Mexico-Canada-U.S. trade agreement, that tariff will rise to 35%. And that's on top of the 50% tariff on steel and aluminum, and new duties on copper will come in on Friday if there is no deal. And part of me is thinking, can nickel be far behind if he's trying to hurt us as he seems to be? I don't know. I hope not. To say the negotiations are intense, which is the words the Prime Minister used, sounds to me like a bit of an understatement. Trump said last week, this is a quotation now, we haven't really had a lot of luck with Canada. I think Canada could be one where they'll just pay the tariffs, not really a negotiation. So that's what he said. And remember, the Europeans decided that they can live with a 15% tariff, but they've also agreed to buy $750 billion in energy and hundreds of millions in military equipment. So do you think we can score a 15% deal, or is it going to be rougher? I can't actually believe that I'm using the word deal when you're talking about 15% being tagged on to everything. But lots to talk about. And quickly, we all know the problems people in this province have with diabetes. The CBC are reporting that Newfoundland and Labrador still hasn't signed on with the Federal Pharmacare Act. Apparently, there's $85 million on the table that would make diabetes meds free, contraceptives free. Now, to be fair, only 4 jurisdictions have signed on so far: BC, Manitoba, PEI, and the Yukon. But we always seem to top the list of unfit citizens of this country, and diabetes numbers through the roof. So I'll be interested to see if you have any remarks to make about that. So lots and lots to talk about, including whatever you would like to bring up. I've got a lot of emails. We talked about moose accidents yesterday. Some hunters saying to me, look, Anthony, the solution is not to kill more moose and issue a basic cull. So anything you want to talk about, I'm Anthony Germain, sitting in this week for Paddy Daly. We'll get to your calls in just a few moments. Okay, please give us a call about the various topics I mentioned just before the break, or anything you want to discuss. The numbers again here in St. John, 709-273-5211, and right across the province, 1-888-590-8626. Busy time for the city of St. John's, with the regatta set to go tomorrow, though it might be a little wetter than we thought. Some sprinkling showers perhaps later in the day. The Canada Games next week, a week from Friday, so a very busy time. The Mayor of St. John's, Danny Breen, joins me now. Good morning.
That's me.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well, and you?
Oh, can't complain. Are you a regatta roulette kind of mayor?
I don't know if I play roulette, but I am a huge regatta fan, and I love the regatta. It's one of the best days of the year for me and for our family. We've always been very big fans of the regatta. Obviously,
it's a magnet for thousands and thousands of people heading to Kitty Vitty. Any message for people as they make their plan? I'm just thinking in terms of commuting, the usual thing about parking, people, things that people should keep in mind as they head there.
Yeah, the Regatta Shuttle, the Metrobus, if you look on the website and get the details on it, that's the best way to get down there and back. It's hassle-free. You just get dropped off near the lake and you get the bus back to your car. So if that works for you, I would suggest that you do that. Otherwise, you're just going to have to be patient moving around down there. We are trying to manage the traffic in the area the best we can. So the more people that use the shuttle and use other means is better for everyone.
I know, unlike the Canada Games, the regatta is really a sporting event where there's an intensity of the crowd in one particular area. But is there anything about tomorrow that kind of acts as a bit of a dress rehearsal for when the games start?
Yeah, well, this has been a big dress rehearsal for the past couple of years, and the past few weeks has been busy, with the Churchill Park Festival. That's a crowd control exercise in itself, and managing traffic and managing security, keeping everybody safe. And then you look at the regatta, and then we're going to go into to basically 2 weeks of a lot of activity happening in the city. I expect there'll be somewhere in the range of 15,000 people visit the city, between athletes and visitors, and in that time as well, I think there's 6 cruise ship visits coming in. So between that, the pedestrian mall, and everything else that's happening, the George Street Festival coming up, it's going to be a wicked few weeks in St. John's.
I hope you mean wicked in the good sense, because I can see
good. Wicked is good in Newfoundland.
I know, and the crowds and the lineups. I'm just wondering, but I guess people just have to realize, hey, there are worse things than having too many people spending money in your town, right?
Listen, the economic impact of the Summer Games is around 110 to 120 million. That's the estimate. Most games have been at or over that amount. And actually, when the games are over, the host society does a formal and thorough review of the financial impact, and so that will be able to then be shared in more precise numbers. But just using that sheer volume of numbers, if everybody remembers the Briar, I always say Canada Games like having 10 Briars in 2 weeks.
The upgrades also to facilities, one of the benefits, because they last beyond the games. One question I have for you, Mayor Breen, is just driving around the city, I still see, it's summer, people complain about the roads and they complain about the construction. I don't tend to complain about the construction because I like seeing the roads getting fixed. However, when it comes to the logistics of shuttling athletes and their families from venue to venue, is there some kind of coordinated plan to, I'm not sure, like temporarily change where the pylons are and where lane reductions happen? I mean, how do you make sure that moves smoothly when you're also doing summer construction on roads?
Yeah, so our traffic department works through that. We have a special events committee that does a lot of this work in bringing all the parties together. So the RNC, Eastern Health, Service NL, and our staff are all in the same room at the same table, working through some of these issues throughout the city. But we've tried to get as much construction work done early and straightened away, and I see some of those projects on Freshwater Road and down in Cavendish Square by the Fairmont or the Sheraton, sorry. Dating myself there. That work is starting to get clued up there now. So we're moving forward with that. We want to make it as easy as possible, but also understanding that the sheer volume of people is going to be a challenge.
So I want to ask you a question, and you may not have the specifics on this, but I was listening to Open Line on Friday to try to sort of remember where things have to go in a show like this with Patty hosting. And Susan Anthony called in and made a very articulate argument that she was concerned about there being too, I know it could sound petty, but the swag bags that all the volunteers get, which is kind of, a kit like all major games provide with jackets and T-shirts, mugs, bottles, that kind of thing. Well, she seemed to argue that for younger volunteers, they were kind of getting a T-shirt, and older volunteers were getting, a nicer perk. And I'm wondering, given that these volunteers are all ambassadors, if it makes sense to have two levels of memento kits.
Yeah, I wouldn't know the details on that, but I do know that the host society puts a lot of thought into the work that they do, and I'm sure that if you were to ask them what the strategy was there, with those kits, they'd certainly be able to answer that for you.
All right, appreciate that. Just before I let you go, I know that you're busy. The speed cameras, or I should say camera, for now, the one on Waterford Bridge Road, has it been clocking and clicking many people who drive too fast? I know it's early days.
Yeah, so we don't have the report on that yet from the province. It may be between our staff and the province. They've been working together on this. But hopefully, perfectly, we'd never give out a ticket, or they'd never give out a ticket there, and just that people will slow down. But I think they do act as a very good deterrent. When you're coming down Waterford Bridge Road, you definitely see the sign that says that there's a traffic camera in place, and if that slows you down, then good. That's a positive thing. So I think that there's room for way more of these in the city. I think that speeding is one of the number one issues that we hear.
Right.
And any type of enforcement is positive in dealing with that.
Okay, last question then. What kind of feedback are you getting so far on the fact that we've finally decided to join other municipalities and bring these things in?
We're getting positive feedback. We're getting some feedback from people that don't like them, and for various reasons, and that's everybody's entitled to their opinion. But most people see it as one of the things that should have been done a long time ago. I noted at the announcement that I wrote a letter to the minister in 2018 asking that we participate in a pilot project on speed cameras, and that may seem like a long time, but it takes a long time to do this. There was legislative changes, there was privacy issues that had to be dealt with, a lot of research. So getting to this point is certainly something that we're very pleased with.
Okay, Mayor Breen, appreciate your time. I know that you're going to be busy with all kinds of people asking for interviews. I mean, you have the whole national and in some cases, like every province is sending some kind of meet. Are you ready for all the interviews you're going to be asked to? Because everybody, whenever there's a games, everybody wants to talk to the mayor. How are you going to manage the media demands?
Well, if you look at it, that's the other part of this that you can't really put in financial numbers, but the exposure that we give the city and the province to the national and international media, that people are seeing St. John's, they're seeing the pictures, they're seeing the vibrancy there, and that would certainly influence them, I think, on whether to visit. And just one other thing I wanted to put a plug in for is this Friday, the torch enters St. John's in the final leg of the torch run.
All right.
And we'll be going into Bannerman Park at, I think it begins at 12, I'm not sure, at the Orange Store on Water Street, makes its way to Bannerman Park, and then that's when the torch enters the city, and that's when it really begins here in St. John's.
Okay, well, we're kind of back to traffic. What's the route from that part of Water Street?
It's online, but I assume that you're coming up Water Street, you're going to make your way up to Circular Road, probably through Kingsbridge Road, and then into Bannerman Park. Okay, so it'd be nice to have people lining the streets. Let's hope there's not any rain or something to actually douse the torch. That'd be horrible. Yeah, well, I think it's waterproof. Listen, just one last question. So when you're getting back to the media, so when CTV, the CBC, Global, all the big national, does that mean that meager local, Joe Lunchbucket shows like ours, that means you're not going to be available for local media because you're going to be too busy promoting the city? I think, Anthony, I've known you long enough. You know that any time you need to speak with me, you know where to find me, and I'm more than willing to have a chat with you. Make sure that you've got lots of cups of tea and throat lozenges, because I remember covering. I'm trying to remember, it was a men's national hockey, and I remember the mayor. I can't even remember which city it was, but he basically had to stop running the city because he was just in front of a camera all the time. You're going to be busy. Well, it will be busy, but you know what? This is good busy, and anytime I get to promote the city, I take that opportunity, and I just love sharing what a special thing we have here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Have you got your lines down yet? I'm getting.
Okay. Danny Breen, appreciate that, and good luck. And no doubt you'll be speaking with Patty next week as things sort of ramp up. Appreciate your time. Good luck with everything.
Right on. Talk soon, Anthony.
All right.
Bye.
That's Mayor Danny Breen. Well, covered a lot of ground there, not least of which is Regatta Roulette. Have you made your plans for tonight? Now, you did hear Jerry Lynn and sort of chatting about the fact that it could be wet, and I know the weather forecast has shifted a bit. Maybe you're making your Regatta Roulette plans, or perhaps you've invited some people who've come into the regatta for the very first time. I think when a lot of mainlanders come here and they go, they're kind of blown away by the dimensions and also just the sheer spectacle of the whole thing. Maybe you're introducing somebody to this longest running sporting event in North America. I'd like to hear what your plans are, what you think, your memories, or if you want to talk about the challenge of hosting the Canada Games, the benefits, the costs. That's a good topic. Road construction, how that's going to interfere. I still, driving around town, I'm kind of wondering, all right, the shuttle buses could be busy, but you heard the mayor explain that the traffic department's working with the Canada Games to make sure things go smoothly. And if you know anything more about these swag bags, I'm not sure why I'm semi-fixated on these, but it does seem to me, I don't want young people to say is that we hosted the Canada Games and all I got was this lousy T-shirt. I think fair is fair. If you're a volunteer, you're a volunteer. I'd like to hear what you think here in St. John's. 709-273-5211, toll free 1-888-590-8626. I'm Anthony Germain, sitting in for Patty Daly. Talk to you again in just a moment. Welcome back. The numbers to call here in St. John, 709-273-5211 to discuss anything that's on your mind. Toll free right across Newfoundland, Labrador, 1-888-590-8626. Let's go to line one with Morgan. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good day, Anthony.
How are you?
Goodbye.
Excellent.
I listened to your opening there. You had a lot of great topics there, but in your opening remarks there, but I'd like to speak on something else there, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, I've noticed again in the news, on all the news items, that the opposition parties here are calling on the government again for more police. And according to what they're saying, and I say they're right because I saw it myself a report, they say that crime is up. It's ticked up somewhat there, and they say police is the answer. But, the increase in activity, criminal activity, is by the same perpetrators. It's not as if more people are reverting to crime, in getting involved in crime. If you look on the news items, every channel, including yours, VOCM, every day or in the evening's news, you'll see a list, a charade. They report daily on criminal activity that's happening around us, whether somebody's charged with assault with a weapon, you're either breaking in and rob someone at gunpoint, or somebody is sexual assault, domestic violence, or even sexual assault, grabbing someone on the trail. They've been charged with these things, okay? And at the end of the list of charges that they're charged with, it's always followed by basically this person is also charged with a breach of a court order, he's breach of probation, breach of parole, breach of court orders. In other words, it's not that the police are doing their job, but the justice system and the courts are breaking down. It's like a merry-go-round. I also saw a little news item on VOCM, and I think it was VOCM, by Constable Cadigan the other day. I think it was Friday.
Yeah.
And he basically said the same thing. The same perpetrators are perpetrating, are just getting a slap on the wrist in the court system and walking out and doing the same thing. That's basically what's on the go. I mean to say the justice system are emboldening these people to continue on. I mean to say they know they're going to get out. And so, in my mind, that's the problem. Police is not the issue. They're doing the job. In fact, the government, I do believe, bent to these pressures from the opposition parties and did hire more. Now, maybe they do on an annual basis hire a few more, but even how I got more RCMP bought in here.
Yeah.
And but it's not the issue.
Oh, can I just say something, Morgan?
Yes.
I think you've zeroed in on what I know is a problem, and that is the manner in which people who are repeat offenders seem to sit down in front of a judge and then they're out fairly soon. And I know during the election campaign, not just in St. John's, but in very small municipalities, a lot of people were talking about how they knew the people who were doing break and enters, as an example, and they were disappointed, shocked in some cases that these people would appear before a judge and then they would be charged quite quickly after they got out. So I think you've circled one good thing. One thing I would take issue with is that sometimes what's in the news can be confused with, a huge increase. So recently, as you may recall, statistics came out which showed, yes, crime in Newfoundland and Labrador was up, but most violent crime was actually down by a couple of percentage points. And I say that even though there is a man in court this morning who's facing a murder charge. So sometimes you get these kind of rashes in the news which can make things seem somewhat worse than they are. But in terms of what you raise about the justice system, if I hear what you're saying the solution is not more police, but trying to unclog the courts or get the courts to do more.
That's what I'm saying, basically. And yes, if you're charged with something, obviously, you go to court, and if it's not violent, they're going to let you out pending your trial, I suppose. But the majority of this stuff is heavy duty. Somebody actually pointing a gun at something. You just mentioned the one yesterday, okay? Like this guy is charged, and we're going to appear in court today, for going into a fella's house, shooting him, and killing him, okay? He was charged with murder, obviously. He's been charged with murder, and he was charged with the careless use of a firearm, if I remember correctly, the report on your station yesterday, possession of a weapon for dangerous purposes. Mm-hmm. You know what is followed by? He was also charged with 3 counts of breaching release orders. Okay? He was already facing charges of uttering threats and assault with a weapon involving the same man. Now, if there's not something wrong with that, and you know where he's at this morning. I'm going to end on this note now because you can tell I'm getting riled up. Really, really driving me foolish listening to it. You know where the man is at this morning? He's appearing in court on a bail hearing. This fellow that killed Buddy Thursday is appearing in court this morning on a bail hearing.
Well, it's part of the due process. I suspect that we'll see what if any bail is actually permitted or set at. But what exactly is your point? You should just be locked up right away?
For killing a person, definitely.
Yeah.
Put on a lock and key. Maximum security.
I'd be surprised if he makes bail.
I would too, now, to be quite honest with you. I can't see. If he do, I think I'll pack up and move. I mean, to say, if the courts this morning, I don't know. Then again, sure, you got the other case up on Craig Miller Avenue. I said I was going to stop, but I'll just mention this and go on.
That's all right.
There's this fella shot another fella up on Craig Miller Avenue. I think it was 2020 or 21.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, he just worked his way through the court system and got off with everything. Got off with murder. Apparently the courts bungled the thing, delayed, and they got this thing what's called a Jordan principle. And the man got off with it all. Maybe the best let him out this morning and go on and say, well, we're not going to do anything with you anyhow.
Oh, because of the lengthy delays, because justice is supposed to be administered quickly for the accused. Yeah, you raise a good point.
Anyhow, welcome to you to the program too.
Well, listen, I appreciate that.
You nearly did it back on the election day. In fact, I don't know what you did. I mean, say you got 2 or 3 people counting. Of course, on this one this time for certain, 2 or 3 people counting votes. If me and you sat down, me and you and Paddy Daly sat down looking at an array of votes, we wouldn't agree on one. Everybody sees everything differently, okay?
Well,
I might call you again. I doubt if I might touch base with Paddy, but I had to get that off my chest because it's becoming that bloody annoying. It's unbelievable. And not only me, all my friends. It's come a joke. Somebody reads out, they said, "Did you hear about what happened to Buddy?" And he said, and he was also charged with something else. I said, "What is that?" "Oh, breach of probation." Anyhow, go on.
Wait. Before you go, I just want to ask you a question. Are you afraid?
No, not really. I won't go further than that. I'm not really afraid, but the bottom line is, now we're talking about this particular case, but you also got guys going around perpetrating, attacking youngsters on walking trails and everything else, and they're getting out. I got a bunch of grandchildren. From the point of view, not afraid for myself, but the way things are going, so you wouldn't dream. I go for a walk every day, and I walk around the Johnson trails. And I went down one 2 days ago, and I passed this young girl. She looked like she was working in Tim Hortons or something. She had a question by herself. I had a mind to stop her. I said, "My darling, if I were you, I'd find another route. Now, I actually was going to stop her, but I didn't. She had her earplugs in, listening to music. We went on. That's the first thing crossed my mind. I said, you're taking some chance in here, my dear. After listening to the one day ago, the week ago, up on Monday Pond Road, some Jew jumped out and attacked, I don't know, it was a young girl or a woman, and took a person. I believe he sexually assaulted her. Yes, you got to be afraid. But myself, no. And I won't go into why.
Oh, no, all right. Well, okay, I'm assuming you're a person who can take care of himself. But certainly during the election campaign, there were a number of seniors who, and they were telling, all the candidates, it's gotten to the point where I'm a bit concerned about going out, especially at night.
I believe him.
Yeah.
I believe him, and particularly young people that, I don't know. It's got ridiculous, and I'm not. To get back to my point I was making, it's not the police. They're doing their job. They're catching these buggers and bringing them to court, and they're out the next day. It's the court system. Now they're going to go make another argument about the pen. Listen, that's no excuse. They got the Waterford Hospital in there, the mental shut down. Go and put some bars up in the window for these crazies. Put the crazy of crazies away. And somebody, white-collar crime, stay out till you get your trial date set and all that kind. But they're letting out lunatics like this fella we just talked about down on Salter Place there yesterday. I mean, to say that's absolutely mind-blowing. And when I read that this morning, looking for bail, I said, Jesus, time to give it all up.
Well, I certainly know there are a lot of police who are frustrated by, what's the point in charging people if they're just going to be let out repeatedly. So I know that you're not a lone voice crying in the wilderness, Morgan, but I do appreciate you calling, and let's hope that we see some kind of improvement. I gather, once the penitentiary is replaced, hopefully there'll be a little more capacity, because I do think that is a factor. Who do you lock up, and who do you sort of cross your fingers and hope won't do anything again? It's not an easy situation.
No, I say you're right, but anyhow, thanks for taking my call. Have
Morgan,
a good day.
All right, Morgan, you have a good day too.
Yep.
Okay, going to take a break in just a moment, but hope you'll call in with what's on your mind on Open Line. Welcome back. The phone numbers to call me, Anthony Germain, in for Paddy Daly here on Open Line, 709-273-5211. Toll free 1-888-590-8626. Getting some emails from some people who are a little bit shy, concerned about some of the conversations we had yesterday about moose accidents, and the suggestions from several people who called in the show that more moose hunting licenses should be issued to help control the moose population. Quite a few hunters texting me and on social media as well, saying this needs to really be reconsidered because of some of the fragility of the moose population. Now, I know this is a constant argument. I don't know, and I can't claim to know what the science says about the moose population. Certainly, I think both federal parks now, the major ones, Terra Nova, Gros Morne, of late they've been allowing hunting in the national parks, which is, of course, not a normal thing for parks to do, given the fact that they're all about conservation. But an indication, I suppose, that there are a lot of moose. So do we need more moose licenses to control the population, or are current practices what's acceptable? What do you think? Toll free, 1-888-590-8626 here in town, 709-273-5211 about that, or any other topic. If you want to weigh in on the ferries or other things, I noticed the recreational fishery is still a hot topic. And yesterday we had a chat with Tom Badcock about disability tax credit, and that's what Keith on line 4 wants to discuss. Morning, Keith.
Morning. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
Good, thank you. I just want to know, was there any updates? Do we get it still? Like, people with Canada pension, disability,
yeah,
the top up Newfoundland, are we still getting this?
I believe so. I think the point that Tom Badcock was trying to make yesterday was the one thing that concerned him, and he said, please don't call him or get in touch with him because he's not, kind of like one of those guys who's free to do people's taxes and fill out forms. But he said the key really is to make sure to get the right forms and fill those out, and make sure that you get the paperwork in. And if your income is in the right kind of zone, then you should be able to qualify for that tax credit.
What paperwork were you just saying? You dropped the call was dropped for a second, and I missed part of what you said.
So I think it would be just as simple as to whether you can either get in touch with Revenue Canada or to go online, and just make sure that they send you the right documentation so that you can fill it out properly. Because Tom's point was just he was concerned that some people, it's one of those axioms in life, Keith. You got to do the paperwork, and some people I think might presume that your information's already in there, but if you don't apply for that tax credit, then the taxman doesn't know that you deserve it. And so his point was emphasizing, for goodness sake, if you want to sort of get a break, do the paperwork.
I'll call Mr. Babcock then and see what he gets to say.
Okay, but don't ask him to do the paperwork for you, because he was pretty clear and adamant yesterday that he wouldn't be doing that.
Okay.
All right, Keith, you have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the information. Have a great day, guys.
All right, you too. Good luck. I hope that things work out for you. I'm not sure if Tom's listening, but if he wants to give us a call, because I know he's a frequent listener, and even though he was on yesterday. On the other hand, Keith just said he's going to call Tom directly, so I don't want to bug Tom 2 days in a row. All right, let's move things along. Go to line 3. Reg is on the line. Hello, Reg.
Good morning, Anthony. How are you, my buddy?
Very well, sir. How about you?
Oh, can't complain. My son can't complain. Nobody to complain. Nobody listens anyway. Yeah?
Well, very few listen, but I am here to listen to you. Are you in Harebay?
Yes, my buddy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, beautiful Harebay.
Yeah, beautiful Harebay is right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Anthony, I just want to touch bases on the reduction the government made with the piers coming across the Gulf.
Yeah.
Now, I've been advocating that for years. I mean, I think it's long overdue, Anthony. I mean, because I'll tell you why now. I run a chip trailer out here in my little town. I've been doing it now for the past, 12, 13 years. And I guarantee you right now, my friend, I get a lot of tours from all over Canada and just about everywhere. They drop by on their way to different places here in Newfoundland. And of course, they all talk about, Newfoundland, how great it is, how the beautiful province we have, and the people in general, the hospitality, the food. But they also always bring up, crossing on the Prairie. Now, there's a lot of people that fly down, Andy, and rent cars, but there's a lot of people that drive also.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a lot of those guys come in those big RVs and crossing on the Prairie, and I've crossed 100 times or more over the years, and it can get pretty costly, you know what I mean? Especially you got to come over, and of course then you got to go back. So kudos to Mr. Carney on that part. I mean, due respect. So what do you think? What's your opinion on that?
Well, full disclosure, obviously with the election campaign and all that, I had no doubt that the Prime Minister, like I said yesterday, if he wanted to lose every seat in the province, then all he had to do was break that promise. So I had no doubt that he was going to keep it. Later on the show, just after 11, I'll be talking to Joanne Thompson, Federal Cabinet Minister, about the announcement. I think it's a good move. It is somewhat overdue, but at least it's happened. I think some people are a bit disappointed it came so late, but the election was only a couple of months ago, so I think you gotta let things happen when they happen. So I think it's generally a good move. I know there's some disappointment about the freight in some quarters, but I think if you operate a chip truck and you see those, I mean, what I've seen a lot of this summer are people with those Airstreams being towing. Got a Ford F-150 towing an Airstream. Sometimes they actually you see the big trailers actually towing a car. So some of these people have deep pockets, and I'm not sure that the ferry cost was keeping people in that income bracket away, but certainly for people who had red circled Newfoundland as a place they would like to visit, the island I mean, and they've kind of looked at it and said, what, $700 is, but now I'm going to save $300, $400 if I take my family. I could certainly see you having a much, I think you'd be making a lot of French fries, a lot of chips.
Well,
Oh, by the way, where's your chip truck parked to?
I'm right in the town of Harebay. I've been located there now, Andy, for the past, I think, 13 years.
Okay.
I got a beautiful trailer. I don't know if I can give it a name just to assess sort of advertisement. But anyway,
yeah.
It's Margot, so I'm going to tell it anyway. I'm well established, and I'm well known, and I know him from my French fries, so you go out in this neck of the woods, drop by, and I'll take care of you.
Now, so if I'm driving, because I do go, I drive to Hare Bay because I think it's one of the best. The nursery there is one of the best, the secret gem for actually where to buy your plants and trees and shrubs. So if I'm heading down there coming from Salvage, is your chip truck on the right or the left?
Yep. You come on through Hare Bay. When you enter Hare Bay, keep on bogeying. Come right. You're just about through the town of Hare Bay.
Yeah.
You pass the store, Home Hardware, and I'm on the same side, on the right-hand side. Yeah. And you'll see the sign there, Margot's. You can't miss it. And I get a lot of tourists, a lot of people from all over.
All right.
But anyway, no, I got to touch bases on one other thing,
okay.
Andy.
Quickly.
I know you're a busy man, but I'm going to make it brief. Andy, I'm getting the feeling, I'm up in age now, and I come from a fishing village. I was born in Greenspan. My father fished all his life. But, buddy, I'm going to guarantee you right now, I'm getting a gut feeling, and I don't like using the word discrimination, but seems like to me somehow or other we've been discriminated against when it comes to this food fishery or recreational fishery, whatever you want to call it. Because, I don't know. I mean, you listen to Transport Canada, and they're talking safety, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and I agree 150%. But, I mean, there's people with the way just down here in Newfoundland, 3 days. I mean, Saturday and Sunday, Monday, this weekend was bad. The winds were high. People are still taking chances and going out, and our next door neighbors, can go out 7 days a week or whatever. There's no limit. And we go, like, from us fellows, we got a long ways to go, 18, 20 miles sometimes to get out there, Anthony, and get back. I mean, you can leave here, it can be perfect conditions. You get out there and can be blowing a storm of wind. And people
you go that far? You go that far out? You go that far out for the recreational fishery?
Yes, it's a nice little jaunt for us. Fellows go out a long ways. Now, a lot of fellows don't go that far, but now if you were in Salvage, I mean, it's only a hop, skip, and a jump. I was over there a couple of times, but
you actually know.
Anthony, but I mean, I'm serious, buddy.
Yeah, I hear you.
I think this it's like the moose racket. I think you got to look at it. But this recreational fishery, I think, got to be looked at again, and they got to go back to the blackboard and do something about it, because it's only a matter of time. Something is going to happen, and like I said, I hate like I only use the word discrimination, but that's the only word I can come up with, and I think some of our MPs up in Ottawa got to speak up on behalf of this province and do something about this recreational.
All right, Reg, a pleasure talking to you. I look forward to sampling your chips. All the best.
Yep.
All right.
Not a problem, my friend. Right. Anytime. Take care.
That's Reg Coos in Hare Bay. All right, back right after the news. Just thinking for that call before the break about the recreational fishery, going out a long distance, I realize how spoiled I've been in Salvage, thanks to Eve Feltman Gumby from Gander taking me up, because we usually go, it takes 3 minutes to get there, and these guys know where the fish are too, and maybe we've got the boat filled up with our 15 in 10 minutes sometimes. They come back, they do all the work. Yeah, I've been absolutely spoiled, and certainly some of the texts I'm getting, they agree with everything about the fairness of the recreational fishery. It's too bad that there can't be some kind of way of monitoring, having the winds, the average winds for the various bays, and winds are kind of consistent, and they say, listen, if it's clocked over, 50 or 60, maybe you can say, okay, DFO could put out something saying, all right, you can fish on Tuesday because yesterday was just not fit. If you want to weigh in on the recreational fishery, on Marine Atlantic ferry rates, whatever you like, a wide range of topics, 709-273-5211 here in St. John's. In Metro, 709-273-5211. Toll free, 1-888-590-8626. That's toll free across the province. And I wonder if you're actually coming in from somewhere around the bay for the regatta. I know that sometimes the regatta, I've heard some people around the bay say it's a towny thing. I don't think that's actually true. I think there's a lot of people that come in and it's kind of come in, stay the day, hit Costco on Thursday. Love to hear from you. 1-888-590-8626. All right, going to line one. Daniel, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mr. Germain. Hope you're well today.
I'm doing very, very well. You don't have to call me Mr., though. It sounds very formal.
Okay, I got a grandson named Anthony. I'll call you Anthony.
Can I tell you that whoever your child was that named that boy has excellent taste in names? What do you want to talk? What do you want to talk about, Daniel?
During the campaign, Mark Carney's first visit over to Victoria, BC.
Yeah.
He mentioned 5% on the OAS, like a hike on 5%, and I think he mentioned staying in campgrounds at the same time. You know anything about that?
So you're talking about the old age supplement?
He mentioned old age security, 5% raise.
Yeah. To my knowledge, and I'll double check on this, I think that's in effect. I mean, do you have any evidence that you're not eligible for it or you couldn't get it?
No.
I have to double check, but I certainly remember, seniors issues were a big issue in the campaign, and I think it was raised to a maximum, wasn't it, of like 800 and something? I'm going from memory, 842 or something like that.
Well, I didn't get that, but
okay.
Usually you mention a raise, I get a raise, but I'm pretty low income. But
yeah, so you're still waiting.
Yeah, I waited till today, as a matter of fact, to give them a chance, to see if it went on in July, but it didn't go on today. So
okay, well, listen, let me take a look into that, and I'll try to answer that before the end of the show. And I know a lot of people listening who deal with seniors and low income issues. If you know the answer to that, I'd like to hear from you. By all means, give us a call, 273-5211 here in St. John's or across the province, 1-888-590-8626, and that way I'll be able to answer Daniel's question. I'll do what I can, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate the call. All right. So, yeah, if anybody actually knows what happened with that, you got to say, since the election is sort of trying to stay on top of as many things as possible, and a new government, sometimes it takes time to execute the promises, as we've seen with Marine Atlantic, but I'll try to get an answer on that one. All right. From OAS to a different credit, disability credit. Tom Badcock talked about this yesterday, and he joins me once again. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I was listening to you when your caller came in, and thank you for emphasizing the fact that, no, I can't fill out the forms. But just to get back to you, even though I have helped some people, don't get me wrong here, just so that people clearly understand this, and after the call yesterday, there were a whole bunch of people who did come to the hub to see Becky, and she printed the forms for them, and away they went. And just to make sure everybody is clear on this, in order to be able to access the money from the province, from Newfoundland and Labrador, that $400 a month, and to get access to this savings plan thing, you have to have filled out the disability tax credit application. I think it's called Form T2021. It's available on the website, but if you're in the St. John's area, you can come to the hub and get it. I can't complete it. I can complete the fact, what we used to call in the military the tombstones information, your name, your address, your email, that stuff. But the rest of it, listing your ailments, has to be completed by a medical professional, a doctor, a psychiatrist, a psychologist,
right,
a physiotherapist, a whole bunch of them. And again, I can't comment whether or not your migraine will qualify you, whether your night sweats will qualify you. I don't know. I've been involved with this for so long now that I've seen some people with exactly the same conditions of one approved, one not approved.
Right.
I don't know how Revenue Canada decides it, but the key thing is you got to get that thing filled out, or if you don't have it filled out, you won't get the money. Simple as that.
So just in terms of, sometimes the bureaucracy gets knocked, but they do have to keep records on these kinds of things. So what's the crossover between Revenue Canada and getting your doctor to fill things out? Is it a provincial, federal thing? I mean, what's the issue? It's federal, right?
It's all federal.
Yeah.
All federal. It's all federal. All the provincial governments take their lead from the federal government. The federal government, CCRA, the Revenue Canada, they approve or disapprove this form to determine whether or not you have a disability. Then once that's determined, every province can access your file.
Okay.
And if they access, for example, your file, they will see Anthony Germain has a disability. And as a result, you get the tax deduction, you get a tax credit when you file your tax return.
Yeah.
Right? And if your income is below $30,000, you can get the $400 per month.
Okay.
And also there's a $1,200 per year put into a disability savings plan for you. So that's the key thing. It's
Right.
all generated by Revenue Canada and their determination whether or not you are eligible to receive this tax credit. It's not a complicated process. The medical people know how to do this. They can actually do it online.
Yeah.
But if you want to get the actual form and help this doctor here. Now, I've actually helped people who've been turned down to actually help them with the wording for their doctor. Because what's key here, from my experience with this, and I've been dealing with this for years and years and years, is that how your disability affects your life, how it affects you if you're working and dealing with fellow workers, how it affects your social life with your disability, and how it affects your accessibility with respect to getting into buildings and things for the physical things.
Right.
So I think that's the criteria. So some doctors, and again, I'm not criticizing doctors, some doctors may just skip over it and maybe not give it the time it needs to be able to fully outline what the person's disability is and how it affects their lives. And that's why some deaf people get it approved and some deaf people don't get it approved. Using that as an example.
Okay.
So it's critical that you discuss with your medical professional how this thing affects your life and how adversely affects your life and how this credit, like, of course, there's an expense. You know, a lot of children are now getting the disability tax credit because they have medication and they require tutors and they require all those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, Revenue Canada approves it. So,
And I guess
again,
as a lot of experts say, given some of the stresses and strains on the healthcare system, it's important for people to be their own advocates when they need something. So you've got to, if I hear what you're saying, you've got to really make sure that your physician or who the healthcare professional is filling it out is actually explicit about how your disability affects your life.
Exactly, and that's how I've seen some cases. I recently helped a gentleman who has applied, and when he told me what his doctor said on the application, I said, well, now I understand why he was turned down. So I actually wrote up what I thought his doctor should say about his disability to help him. Now, I can't do that. I don't have the staff, and I don't have the time to do it for everybody. You know, if I had a different role, I'd have staff to do it. So
yeah, I was going to warn you.
I don't mind getting. Sorry.
I was going to warn you, Tom. Don't talk about writing and filling out paperwork for people because you just told us you're not doing that. But listen, I'm going to move things along, but I really appreciate you calling back to clarify the issue. Thanks a lot.
Anytime. Anybody wants to call anytime. Thank you.
All right. Okay. That's Tom Badcock, who is not available to fill out the paperwork for you. If you're looking for that disability tax credit, just go online, Revenue Canada, get that. And as Tom makes a point, you've got to spell things out sometimes. Doctors are busy people. If they can make something brief and perhaps not capture the essence of how you're being affected, and I don't mean this as a criticism, you got to tell them exactly what you need to get the best shot at qualifying for a benefit that seems to be beneficial for the people who really need it. Back after the break. All right, welcome back. The phone numbers to call here in St. John's, 273-521-1709, obviously 273-5211, and right across the island and the big land, 1-888-590-8626. Let's go to line number 5. Chris, you are on the air. Hello.
Yeah, good morning, Anthony. I just wanted to talk about the fixed link from Yankee Point on the Northern Peninsula to Point Armour in southern Labrador. Like, I'm listening to Open Line, and you hear the problems that's going on in Marine Atlantic. I mean, that's been going on forever, and it's never going to change. When is Newfoundlanders going to decide to build the subsea tunnel from Newfoundland to mainland Canada? And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has to be built up. Like, I mean, from what I see, I just come home from Ontario, and I was away for a while. And when you're in central Canada and you're looking down east, you can see the challenges very easily. And the biggest solution to the developing Newfoundland. When I come home after being away for 5 years, I thought that immigration was just happening in Ontario, like Scarborough, like it's all new Canadian immigrants. And when I come back to Newfoundland, my friend, has changed for good.
No doubt.
Newfoundland has changed, and it ain't going back.
No, I think you're right. I think that the face of this province is changing, whether some people like it or not. The birth rate means we're not going to be able to pay for the health care that I'm going to need or you're going to need, and a lot of us are going to need, and immigration is kind of key to making sure there's a tax base here. So I'm not quite sure if I follow the link between immigration and the fixed link, though.
Well, what's happening is the population is growing in Newfoundland significantly, because there's a lot of new Canadians coming into Newfoundland. So we're developing, need more houses, better highways, and so and this is just my opinion, the link between Yankee Point and Point Armour in Southern Labrador is the absolute answer to the challenges in Newfoundland. The other thing is that we just brought a concrete island 200 or 250 miles offshore, and people was looking at that from all over the world, and it's just like taking candy from a baby. We have the confidence now to make Newfoundland a part of Canada.
I've got to tell you, I've been doing interviews with people who are big advocates of a fixed link now, I'd say for more than a decade. And I guess obviously the big thing is always, at least the beginning, I would say, was the price tag. But then if I'm not mistaken, I think the Canadian Truckers Association actually came out in favor of it. But I think the price tag on the last model I saw was like $2 billion, something like that. I'm just going from memory, so I could be completely wrong. But I guess the price tag thing. On the other hand, you've got a prime minister now who says he's looking at big projects. Is anybody making the case right now? Mark Carney says he wants to put people to work because who's going to devastate our economy. Is there anybody actually advocating for this as far as you know?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, new projects. Well, if he's listening, this is the backbone of Newfoundland right now, is getting that tunnel across. It's 16 kilometers, 9.9 miles. I mean, Norway could build that with their eyes closed.
I don't want anybody building a tunnel with their eyes closed, Chris, but I hear what you're saying. Listen, you make a good case, and I appreciate the call. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. Fixed link. It's one of those things. I remember people being really adamant about it, and Norway certainly is a world leader in these kinds of tunnels. I suspect, like the Confederation Bridge, if there were a federal-provincial agreement to actually go ahead with that thing would be tolled, like the Confederation Bridge has been for a long time. So I don't know. For your thoughts, if you want to weigh in on that, give us a call. Right now, I'm going to go to line 4. Hannah, you are on the air. Good morning.
Morning, Anthony. How are you?
Very well. What's on your mind?
I guess it's a little rant about drivers. I don't know. I think people need to go back and look at the rules of the road. Indicating should not be, we're not psychic. I'm not psychic. I don't know if anyone else is, but I shouldn't have to know you're turning or merging because you're coming and about to hit me. I don't think an indicator is something extra you pay for when you get a car. So it's there. People should use it.
Have you had
It's not a suggestion.
Yeah, have you had an incident lately?
Lately, or do you mean today? Because
today be lately.
Every day.
Yeah.
It's every day. It's every day a different driver, and I get that sometimes, maybe people are like, there's nobody driving at this time. It's okay for me not to. You never know when someone's going to come from nowhere. A person, a kid, a cat, anything. Just indicate so people know we're not psychic. A stop sign, you need to just stop. Your brakes, I don't know. It's driving me a a little bit crazy, and I just feel like I think people need that reminder that we're not psychic. Just do whatever the rules require you to do, and then we'll all be safe.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, part of me, if I'm using my bike, I'm sort of a little more sensitive. But even driving, I do notice there does seem to be a lack of education about what the merge process and procedure is. Sometimes people see that yield sign, and I swear they think it's time, speed up and cut off the person who's actually got the right of way.
And there's no timer. There's no. I don't know where everyone's trying to get to. Like, arrive alive, give way means give way. It's not. I don't know. I don't know what people are thinking. But just as a friendly reminder, please just indicate. Just follow the rules of the road. A stop sign is a stop sign. A red light is a red light. It's not. See if you can beat it. No, just stop.
Okay, I don't hear some big vehicle backing up towards you right now, do I?
No, there's a truck in front of me.
Don't be that driver.
Oh, no. I mean, I would like to say I'm a good driver. I think I'm a good driver, but I'm a fairly safe driver. I just want everybody else to be safe, so...
It's always a good reminder. I think sometimes people are sort of maybe daydreaming a little bit or really getting into the music, if they're listening to something other than me, maybe K-Rock or who knows. But yeah, no, it's a good reminder. I think people do need to be more aware and in the moment when you're actually behind the wheel. Listen, Hannah, appreciate that, and I hope you have a safe drive wherever you're going. Watch out for that truck. I hope it's not a cement truck.
No, it's not, but thank you.
All right, all the best.
Thanks.
That's Hannah. If you want to call in talking about driving etiquette, the ferries, speed cameras, a whole bunch of topics, by all means, give us a call. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll take more of your calls. Big lineup, right? We'll get to those calls right after the break. All right, welcome back. Great to see we've got a whole bunch of people who want to get on the show. That's what I like to see. I was kind of afraid, if I come in to replace Patty, is anybody going to call? So I don't feel like I've been left at the altar, which is great. If you want to get on the show to talk about whatever's on your mind, 709-273-5211, 709-273 in Metro 5211, and right across the province, 1-888-590-8626. Got Derm Flynn on line number 1. Hello there.
Good morning, Anthony, and congratulations on the gig, and guess give Paddy a bit of a break. So,
yes.
My old buddy Paddy, but
and he deserves it.
Interesting enough, just for the sake of a half dozen or so votes, you probably would have been at that announcement yesterday.
In some ways, things happen. Now, are you the Derm Flynn?
Well, I guess I am. Yeah, I guess I am the Derm
okay.
Flynn, yeah.
I just want to make. I've only ever interviewed one Derm Flynn, and I'm glad it's the same Derm Flynn. I think you can.
We did an interview many years ago when you were at.
Yeah. But listen, so you've retired now. You're no longer the mayor of Appleton, I assume.
No, I'm retired. I spent 32 years in municipal government, but 25 of those, I guess, when I was here on the island, we spent year after year after year at conventions and at hearings and that type of thing, talking about Marine Atlantic. And most of the time, we were talking about another increase in fares, and always lobbying to have the fares reduced and have them canceled, because we always argued that it was a part of the Trans-Canada Highway and all that, but never had much luck. But this announcement yesterday is huge for the province. I spent a lot of time in the tourism industry in my working career, and we always push to try to improve the shoulder seasons of the tourism industry. And I know that the announcement yesterday won't help people won't allow more capacity on the runs, both Argentia and Port aux Basques, but it will probably improve the opportunities to expand the tourism season in the off season, and get people traveling across from the mainland to our province, and I think that's a huge thing. Mm-hmm. It's certainly going to. It's a big deal, and I think that it's finally that Mr. Kearney, in his wisdom, to reduce the even by 50% is a huge reduction at this point in time.
It sounds like you're giving this the thumbs up.
I'm definitely giving it a thumbs up, and certainly I would hope that Marine Atlantic might take a more serious look at the cost of the cabins, but that's another issue. But certainly any reduction is a big help to people traveling. I mean, I travel back and forth to Nova Scotia on a regular basis because I got family there, and half Newfoundlanders probably got family there.
No doubt.
So it'll help that industry, but it'll help the people making that final decision. When I was working in tourism, people would say, "Oh, well, I've been all over Newfoundland, from Nova Scotia to BC," and that type of thing. And we would always say, "Look, boy, make the plunge and make the extra step and come over to Newfoundland." And hopefully, this will be a big part, and give it a big push to get those people that have come so far to come on to Newfoundland, which is the best part of the country, obviously.
I'm biased. I have to agree with you there. Of course, I know you meant Canada, and people sort of saying, "Okay, I can't afford to make it from Nova Scotia." But I think, as you know, any economist will look at this and say, "Okay, you've cut the price in half." People who looked at the price point and said, "I'm willing to spend $300, maybe $400 across," their dreams have come true, and hopefully they'll be able to make it. I do wonder, though, for people who've argued for a while that we need more capacity, if we're not going to go the fixed link route, I'd be interested to see what the surge in demand is for 2026. And who knows, maybe the case for more capacity in the form of another ferry. But I might be getting ahead of myself. But I agree with you. I think, I had no doubt that Carney was going to keep the promise because it'd be political suicide not to. And also, I think it's just a good idea. But listen, Durham.
Capacity is a big issue. Obviously, it's a big issue this year because of so many things happening here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yes, summer games.
But there's a possibility that maybe if for the fall season they could extend the Argentia run. That would increase the capacity considerably. That's a beautiful boat on that Argentia run. So by extending the season, because people that want to come to Newfoundland, if they can't get here in August and September, certainly that might be one answer to upping the capacity and again improving the shoulder season for the tourism industry.
Yeah, there's no question.
Operators certainly must be ecstatic about the fact that this has finally come to fruition with the reduction.
Absolutely.
Obviously, everyone would love to see it even further reduced, but it's a good start, and maybe in another election or two it'll be further reduced. But certainly it's a great move, and I think that after all my years in municipal government, and many more people that have gone before me, this has been a huge issue for
years,
for this province forever, and it's a good start to what should probably have been done a long time ago.
Okay, Durham, pleasure to hear from you. All the best. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it, and good luck with the rest of your gig, and I'm sure we'll talk again.
I certainly hope so, sir. All right, that's great. I don't know too many Durham Flynns, so it's good to talk to Durham once again. All right, let's go to line 3. Ward 4, Councillor Tom Davis joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you. I mean, which of the 2007 topics happening in St. John's do you want to talk about? There's so much going on.
There is, really. I mean, I just want to remind people tomorrow that for the regatta, please goodness it happens, but if it is regatta day, it's a shop closing act, so therefore the meters are not in play, so you can park at a meter and there'll be no charge. However, city parking bylaws are still enforced, so i.e. if you double park or if you park in a no parking zone, you're going to get a ticket. Also a reminder for people who have EVs, or if you don't have an EV and you park in EV parking zone, no matter what time of day it is, no matter what day it is, you actually have to connect and you have to pay. So that's, or you'll get a ticket. I saw a truck during the Pride Parade that had 2 tickets on it parked in an EV zone. So just let people know that. That's an important thing for people to know. I wanted to quickly touch on the speed cameras. I was down at the announcement. It was great to hear.
Yeah.
There's going to be one. Obviously, the Waterford Road one is starting. It's funny, I drove up through there the other day, and we're doing scratch and patch, so we put traffic calming in place.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we're going to get the results we want until that gets finished, but they're in the process of doing that, so hopefully...
And how fast were you driving?
Oh, I was driving slow. A, because I knew about it, but B, because you have to weave and try and avoid go down in the scratches. But no, that's going to make a big difference to the residents. It's not my ward, but that's a great location for one. The Larkisle is, so for the two schools there who the parents are really legitimately worried about, and not only the fact that Lyrisbrook has to cross Larkisle to get to the green space, the park that's there, a couple times a day. So that's going to be great. The other thing is that Minister Sudley announced that they're going to have cameras on traffic on the arms of buses. That's going to be great because that's a huge challenge, and people really need to realize that kids, as we know, are unpredictable, and they assume they're safe when the buses stop with all those lights flashing. So going out around a stopped bus with its flashing arm out, not only is it a really big ticket and points, again, for me, is if you're after something bad happens, which unfortunately happens periodically in this province, and you're sitting by the side of the road having to deal with that for the rest of your life. I mean, I think that's the motivation we all need. It's not about the tickets. I want to touch on the Churchill Park. So last year was my first year as a counselor, and last year I really got it. I mean, probably up to 80 complaints. This year, knock on wood, just a few. Not to minimize the few, because the few are legitimately really, really put out by. I mean, if you lived adjacent to that and you had no place to go, I mean, one lady described it as a nightmare, and I think it's fair. 4 days. Their voices need to be heard too. But I do want to thank the promoter and our staff for getting these concerts to end on time. Last year they went well over Shania. It was hard. They needed a hook to get her off the stage. But this year I'm not sure how they accomplished it. I went out, checked it out. Def Leppard on Friday night, 10:58. Yeah. It stopped, which was really good. However, I just want to be the voice for the residents, getting that place cleaned up in between. Legitimate concerns about that too.
No question. Listen, you went to the Def Leppard concert. We got a call yesterday from a woman who raised accessibility issues, where she said she used, I think, the Go bus and dropped her off by CIBC, and she didn't really understand why there were school buses next to the concert, but she had to push her 200-pound plus husband in a wheelchair to the concert site. Have you received many complaints about accessibility issues for people who need wheelchairs or other accommodations to get around?
I didn't, but I heard the call. I reached out to the promoter, and although I didn't get a commitment from him, he out loud was thinking how he might be able to improve that for tonight. So fingers crossed. He's really busy, obviously, working his magic, but I'm really hopeful that he's managed to accommodate that somehow. So that got heard by me, got passed on to him, and also to staff too, just in case they could have any input into it. So hopefully that'll be improved for this year. Fingers crossed. I just want to take off the council hat just for a second. Sure. And the wildfire issues. This year, 182 already, July 29th. The average since 2019 is 97 a year. So we're 88% higher than the average. Wow. It's actually, I'm sure, without going back, because I don't have access to all the data, this is definitely the most wildfires we've ever experienced in Newfoundland and Labrador. I mean, I can't imagine, if the average is 97, that we've ever gotten this high before. Yeah, it certainly feels like it. Not to mention the town evacuations, which don't stick in my mind as being so common. But, Badger, Musgrave Harbour, Churchill Falls, Lab City, and, of course, what happened to Adams Cove, another almost tragedy, but still tragedy for those who lost their houses. And I just want to draw a straight line, and I know it's we need to realize that the planet is screaming at us. And, I don't know, it seems like the floods and the hurricanes and everything happens, and the wildfires happens during this time of year. It starts to get on people's radar. Then, of course, we go back into the winter, and then we go back and we lose that momentum that we had going into during the pandemic, when people really started to pay attention to the climate and to the impact that people have on the climate. So I just want to draw a straight line, read the signs. I jokingly say that if there was a guy up on a hill with a staff saying, "Look after my planet," maybe we might listen to him. Or I'm going to send plague after plague after plague warnings. I don't know how many warnings we all need, but again, I know it's uncomfortable. I know people don't like to hear it. It's true. But you know what? We got to be able to say these things out loud. Have these difficult conversations in public. I appreciate you taking my time, Anthony. Appreciate you calling, Tom. Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right. That's Tom Davis, councillor for Ward 4. Drawing the line to climate change clearly. And if you were listening to the show yesterday, the people who've been watching the rivers, Terra Nova and Gander, the two guests yesterday, certainly seeing a pattern of dryness over the last 10 years, with some years being worse than others. But certainly for some of the people who've been working on the rivers, particularly in Central, sharing some of their knowledge. And it's pretty deep knowledge, too. There's no question. The pattern of dryness has gotten worse. Drought, technically, in some parts of the island, certainly before the big blast of rain last week. If you want to weigh in on that or any other subject, I hope you call in. Okay, let's get to the break. Welcome back. Anthony Germain here, filling in for Patty Daly. If you want to get on the show, love to hear from you. Give us a call, 709-273-5211. Here in Metro, right across the province, 1-888-590-8626. As some of you may know, when I'm not doing this, which I haven't done in a while, I'm a high school teacher in Labrador, in the wonderful community of Natwashish. Wouldn't mind getting some calls from the big land. I've noticed, okay, I've been here now almost for 2 shows. I don't think I've heard from anybody in Labrador, so I'd like to hear you weigh in on some of the topics, whether it has to do with forest fires, wildfires, or Labrador issues that we haven't raised. I don't want to be accused of alienating my friends in Labrador, so please, if there's a topic on your mind, give me a call. And also, given that we've had so many comments about the recreational fishery and when days are eliminated because of wind, Joanne Thompson, the federal cabinet minister for this province, fisheries minister, she's going to join me on the show right after the 11 o'clock news. And we're going to talk about ferries principally, but I will ask the minister about whether anybody is sort of looking at what changes can be done when the weather eliminates a day on the 3-day recreational fishery. So stay tuned for that, coming up in about 15 minutes or so. First, though, we're going to go to line 5, and Sharon, who wants to respond to another caller we had in the last half hour, Hannah. Hello there, Sharon.
Hi, how are you?
I am very, very well. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was listening to the woman talking about people and their driving. I was in Kelsey Drive the other day coming out with my daughter, and this car came out from the bank, shot right across the street, and only before I had emergency training, he nipped us almost 2 inches away. He almost nipped us 2 inches away from the car. Only before I caught him at the corner of my eye, we would have been probably killed. And the man just went on down the road, didn't stop to see if we were okay or anything. We just stopped in our tracks because I got afraid. I'm a senior citizen. Also, like, the other thing I want to say was these new Canadians, and I'm not saying I'm prejudiced or anything, but I've had several incidents with these new Canadians driving with going too low speed.
Too slow?
And and then I had one shot around the back of me and came out in the front. And I mean, it's 4 times this week now I'm after having incidents with mostly, and I'm sorry, but new Canadians.
Yeah, well, I think, bad drivers come in all colors and sizes, so I hope...
Yes. I'm not being prejudiced. I'm just saying these are the incidents I've had.
Yeah. Now, back to your incident on Kelsey Drive. Which part of Kelsey Drive were you on?
You know where the bank is at? On Kelsey Drive?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was coming... my daughter works at Walmart, and I was coming down towards the lights.
Yeah.
And this car shot out from the bank, and I guess trying to get over in the lane, and all the cars stopped behind me, and I like I said, I had emergency training when I got my license.
Good thing.
And only for that, he would have struck us. But he never even stopped. He just went ahead of me and went through the lights.
That's shocking. That's just shocking. I've seen it. It's just bad etiquette. But I'm glad that you're okay and that you obviously know what to do when somebody else doesn't know what to do.
No. The other thing is, talking about Labrador, my son lives in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and they do 40 kilometers an hour up there, as you should know.
In some places, yeah.
Yeah, well, where he's at in Goose Bay.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what they need to do here lower the speed limit in some of these areas there.
It couldn't hurt, especially up Kelsey. I find one of the hardest places to navigate, especially if you're making a left or right turn out of any of the malls and shopping areas up there. Listen, Sharon, I appreciate you calling, but I got to move things along. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, bye now. Okay, let's squeeze another call before we get towards the 11 o'clock news. JD is on line 1. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hello, good morning, Anthony. I'll be brief as you got to move to the news. I just want to draw, with the regatta coming up tomorrow, I just want to draw some awareness. There may be a lot of people who aren't aware that the regatta and the Royal Newfoundland Regiment share the same song.
Oh.
And the Banks of Newfoundland is the regimental march past for the Royal Newfoundland Regiment. And one of the most sacred things that happens in regimental ceremonies is the marching on of the colours, and the colours has every chevron of all the battle honours on it.
Right.
So here we are, we're sharing this song, and so I'm not an expert in either field, but I just thought that I'd raise awareness, even maybe to the rowers. They might want to consider it. Listen, when we hear that song, we're also, maybe we'll get an extra gust of strength thinking about, what this song. I mean, the song is being shared for two different events, which I think is maybe okay. Now, maybe there's a military historian out there, in particularly to march past, that say this is unorthodox, and where the regiment belongs to the Canadian Forces, and it's a federal thing. I'm just wondering. Anyways, I'll just raise it as a point of interest.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, JD, but I guess, what I think, now I just happen to know that, and I completely kind of forgotten that the Banks of Newfoundland was shared between the Regatta Day festivities and the regiment, because obviously it's a very solemn tune as it's applied to the regiment. I think a lot of people think the official song for the regatta is Up the Pond, right? Like Dum-de-diddly.
Yeah, and it's officially, the official name is, now maybe they did nickname it Up the Pond for that reason.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know if there's any variation in the music score or not to distinguish it, or I'm not sure, but...
Oh, there must be. There must be. Well, listen, it's always good to get somebody pointing out some of the historical truths around here in such a historic place, especially with a race that's now going into its 207th iteration. Will you be at the regatta?
I won't. I'll be working, actually, but that's not a day off for us. And, but the other thing, too, I just wanted to raise a point. On July 1st, when they did play the regimental march past the Banks of Newfoundland as they were marching on the colours, I actually heard a young fellow say, "Dad, that sounds like the song at the regatta."
You're probably right.
And he was, oh, wow, yeah. So even for the young people coming up, and we're trying to introduce them to, students going to Ballinhamel and all this, and but there's something to think about and something to bring awareness to.
All right, JD, appreciate that. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, my heart is at the regatta for the championship race, but I'll be viewing it on TV.
Okay, well, listen, if you got to work, you got to work. I appreciate the call.
Okay, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, JD. Yeah. Francis Forbes, the Chief Justice of Newfoundland between 1816 and 1822. He is given the credit for writing the Banks of Newfoundland. It's a piece that's kind of stepped in tradition. It's a part of the oldest sporting event, as you just heard, traditionally played as the crews pass the bandstand on their return to the stakes, though it has been played sometimes at the start of the races as well. Francis Forbes, interesting Chief Justice. He went on to be the first Chief Justice of Australia. Go back to some of our colonial history in the 1800s. I'm Anthony Germain, filling in for Paddy Daly. We'll be back right after the news at 11 o'clock.
Saturday morning, join us for the Irish Newfoundland Show. Send your request to irishnl@vocm.com or submit them online at vocm.com.
Well, you heard Sarah mention that Fisheries Minister Joanne Thompson was on hand on Prince Edward Island yesterday for the big announcement about Marine Atlantic ferries. I'm going to connect with her in just a moment. If you want to weigh in on that topic or any of the various topics we've spoken about on the show so far, or something new that's on your mind, give us a call here in St. John's, 709-273-5211. That's 709-273-5211. And right across the province, including Labrador, of course, 1-888-590-8626. And Joanne Thompson, the Liberal MP for St. John's East and Minister of Fisheries, joins me now. Good morning. Good morning, Joanne.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, my mistake. I'm still trying to learn all the newfangled technology that the OCM uses. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good, thank you. Glad to be back in St. John's. It's been a busy couple of weeks on the road, but I am back for the regatta, so all
good. Timing is good. So what can you tell me about the timing of Prime Minister Carney's announcement yesterday? July, as you know, pretty big month in the tourism industry and pretty much gone. What can you tell me about the timing of it?
Well, I mean, really, the timing is the timing. Would love to have done this sooner, but as you know, there's a lot happening globally. Government has, the Mark Carney government has a very firm and tight, ambitious agenda that we are working quite hard to move forward. And this is one of the items that just took some time to put together, but it is August 1st when people are going to see 50% reduction in passenger vehicles on both routes in and out of the province. And so it is a significant announcement, but it is important that we get these things right. So it did take a little longer than obviously all of us would have liked, but August 1st, it will come into play.
Now, I know certainly some of the reaction, a lot of the reaction is very, very positive, and we heard from Derm Flynn. I'm not sure if you tuned into the show, but he was talking about how he's been advocating for this. I mean, he was practically doing radio cartwheels about the announcement, so he's very happy. People who decided to book in July, of course, there's always a cutoff date for any new policies, so that's just that is what it is. And I guess you mentioned August 1st. Of course, there's the big deadline with Trump on trade, so naturally the government is busy. However, I just want to ask you this. Provincial Cabinet Minister Jerry Byrne, the former Liberal MP, as well, called in, and he made the case that if truckers bringing goods to PEI are getting a break, then it only makes sense as a matter of fairness that truckers and companies bringing goods here should see some kind of reduction. And I wonder what your thoughts are on the decision to freeze those rates instead of reducing them.
So, yeah, and it's actually a really good question, and I spoke to this yesterday. Newfoundland is unique. PEI, it's a bridge. It's much more straightforward. We have a mix of public and private marine carriers. And, the private operators play an important role in the overall capacity, that overall supply chain. And so, everything is really, at the end of the day, around balance and how it is that we find that we strike that balance where we provide relief for users, but we also need to be really mindful of the broader service landscape. We need both carriers, the private and the public, to ensure that we get goods in and out of this province. So the freeze gives Marine Atlantic that space, but at the end of the day, we need to ensure that the supply chain is strong.
So does that mean freezing it is a time to sort of think about what's needed, or is that just in perpetuity that the rates stay where they are? Any sense on that?
No. For a period of time, and we will revisit as we do with all of these things. But it really is understanding that it's a tough time. It's a tough time, certainly in many industries in the country. There's an uncertainty, so it's about providing relief. And I think I go back to the 50% rate for private users and vehicles. That is a significant reduction. So I think there's a real opportunity there, an opportunity for, particularly in the summer months, tourist operators, coastal urban regions in the province, and really get or provide the space so that people are able to travel with more ease, families coming home. Mm-hmm. So it's a boost to the economy as well, at a time that I think it's quite necessary.
Okay, while I got you, and I don't want to keep you too long, but something, this is only my second day on Open Line, but I've received quite a few calls from people, and this always comes up, the recreational fishery.
Yes.
And I know that I get a chance to go fishing on the Eastport Peninsula. We're kind of spoiled, but it is disappointing when the windy days kind of cancel a day of fishing. And I know you've heard this from people before, and it comes up time and time again, but is there a way to sort of, for the department to say, look, Saturday was way too windy. Most people in Newfoundland could not get out there and fish. So, Tuesday looks good. You can go on Tuesday. Is there any way to address this? Because I know you've heard this complaint before. I'm just wondering.
So, and actually, I'm really pleased you brought this up. It is an important point, and I do hear it. And it is the reason why in early fall we're going to do a series of comprehensive consultations. I want to hear from people. The challenge is the northern cod stocks are quite strong. I mean, I see the pictures. It is amazing. I haven't had the opportunity to go out myself yet, but it is amazing. The flip side of this is the Gulf cod stocks are not strong. And so what you put in place across the province is wonderful on the east side, but the west and the south coast, it could further harm the stocks that are already already challenged. So I think we need to be mindful as we move forward what our plan looks like in terms of preserving Gulf stock, while also understanding that right now the northern cod is really strong and we want to ensure it stays there. So I want to hear from people. So, please watch those dates, come forward. We'll provide spaces, maybe some public meetings, but I really want to hear from people and bring the ideas forward that understands what you do in one end of the province is tough to not do as a region, or maybe we split it off. I want to hear that, and then obviously, what I hear will really influence what happens next year.
Okay, so you can have your own open line on the fishery in the fall. Listen, one last question, and I really don't mean to be throwing you a curveball, but it's a question about pharmacare. CBC reporting that Newfoundland and Labrador still hasn't signed on to the program, which could make diabetes medicines and contraceptives free, no charge. The Pharmacare Act, as you well know, passed last October. There could be $85 million on the table. Do you have any insight you can share about where that stands between the federal government and this province? And to be fair, more provinces have not signed on than have signed on, so I'm not trying to paint the province in a negative light, but I just wondering where that is because, as you know, diabetes, a major problem here.
Yes, it is. And, I can't and I won't speak for the province on this, but, I supported Pharmacare and championed it, was proudly there for the announcement. The nurse in me knows, diabetes, it's a chronic disease. The earlier you provide robust treatment, the better. That early and appropriate treatment can change the course of the disease process. So, across the country, I would love to see all provinces and territories signed on. Contraceptive care is so important. It's so important. So, these are the programs that I'm particularly proud of from the last government and to support, the social net as we move forward, I think is important for all of us. So what I will say is I personally support Pharmacare, and I would love to see all provinces and territories sign on.
All right, Joanne Thompson, appreciate your time. Thanks a lot, and enjoy the regatta tomorrow.
Thank you, and appreciate taking my call.
All right, take it easy now. That's Joanne Thompson. We're going to talk. Peter's been waiting a long time, and should we talk to him now, or should we wait till the break? So, Peter, I know you've been waiting patiently, and I appreciate your patience, and we will talk to you, Peter, about ferries right after the break. Welcome back. I'm sorry for a little 2-second delay there. I'm just sort of reading a text sent to me by an open line listener asking me, could you ask Ms. Thompson if DFO would consider a tag system for the recreational fishery? The weekend system just doesn't work, in my opinion. There's no leisure about it. It provides an opportunity to catch a few cod, but it's a race to get out, and it's not really helpful. So I'm sorry I missed that. Now, I do believe, now I can't remember who was the Minister of Fisheries at the time. I do believe that a tag system was proposed, but it was something like 40 tags per person or per boat. I can't really remember, because you don't want to have kind of a free-for-all. And then when they did the math on the number of people who go, it's not like the salmon angling where you get four, or it used to be 4 tags, 2 tags that you can use, and there are far fewer people, I suspect, who make it out to the rivers and actually get out on. But I think it was just deemed to be too cumbersome. I could be wrong about that, but if somebody from DFO or somebody knows about what the tag proposal was, I'd certainly love to hear from you and why that's not feasible, or maybe it is. I could be completely wrong. It's been known to happen. Give me a call here in St. John's, 709-273-5211, 709-273-5211, about recreational fishery tags. Anything you want. Toll free 1-888-590-8626, 1-888-590-8626. So talking to Joanne Thompson just before the break about ferries and a number of other subjects. And Peter joins me now on line 6, wants to talk about ferries as well. Good morning.
Good morning, Anthony.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing good. I was just watching a few salmon jumped around the Exploits River. I was waiting in line there, and
don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. Is there a good run on? I'd rather talk about this. Is there a good run on?
I think this is probably the best season that I've seen since I was here, but I haven't been here a long time at salmon. This is my 4th year.
Oh, my goodness. I was actually, I'll tell you, I know you want to talk about ferries, and I don't want to gobble up your time, but my dad, one of his dreams was to salmon fish in Labrador. He lives in near Montreal, and I brought him here a few years ago. This is just before COVID, I think, and we managed to get there around this time of year, maybe mid-July, and there was just a huge run-on, and probably one of the best days of fishing in my life, father and son kind of thing. So when the fishing is great on the exploits, a good place. And I'm really happy to hear this, because we've been talking about the Terra Nova and the gander yesterday, you might have heard, and problems with fish. So keep our fingers crossed for the exploits. Now,
anyway, I'll move on.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'd just like to say thank you to Mark Carney, Joanne Thompson, and the rest of the MPs and the federal government of Canada by this ferry reduction rate. It will mean a lot, and like for a person with a 30-foot trailer and a 20-foot truck, traffic will go both ways, and like with elbows up, staying in Canada, you'll see that a lot of people from Newfoundland will probably go and visit Canada in the summertime and their holidays. But anyway, thanks to all, and I've got an opinion.
Yeah, you make a good point there, because I think we tend to, especially if you live on this side of the overpass, you tend to think, what does this mean for all the businesses here? What does it mean for us? But it does cut both ways. There could be a lot of Newfoundlanders saying, I'm not spending that kind of money to get to Halifax. Not that there's anything wrong with Halifax. I don't want Haligonians calling and complaining. But yeah, it's true. It works both ways. So all of a sudden, if you want to go and spend some time in the wonderful city of Montreal, or maybe catch a Jays game, a great series, get to Toronto, it's all of a sudden it's a little more affordable to get to the mainland.
That's right. And a lot of people are talking about it here right now, but anyway, before all this happens, in my opinion, the federal government should sit down with Marine Atlantic and negotiate what the percentage of increase is going to be for at least the next decade. Because you know how it is with government subsidies or government grants. Usually the companies, they'll stick it to the consumer, stick it to the government at the same time. I'll give you a couple of examples of that now.
Sure.
Insulation to make your house more affordable to heat.
Mm-hmm.
When the grant is there, the price is outrageous. Home heat pumps, mini splits, etc. The price just increased tenfold.
Yeah.
And that's just a couple of examples how people behave. It's the taxpayers that's paying this money, going to pay for us to travel back and forth across on the ferry. It's not Carney or Joanne Thompson or anybody else. It's it's the hard working class Canadians that's going to pay for this. Same as with other things that are subsidised.
Right.
So I suggest before for the wait 5 years and the price will be back up to where it is right now. The increase after increase after increase. And I'm sure they're thinking this right now, and you wouldn't be business minded if you didn't. But I think they should deal with that problem first before the 50% kicks in.
Okay, so I just want to be clear on what you're saying. So you think over time the rates, so I mean, you're talking 50%, right? So I'm assuming it would take a while. You know, let's say, for instance, they're just factoring in inflation. So, you know, with all due reason, Marine Atlantic says, you know, we got to hike prices. You think they could be hiked back to where they were really fast?
Give it a decade, and you'll see that they'll be getting up there. And the government should put something in place to prevent this from happening. And when it comes to ferries, right here in Newfoundland and Labrador,
yeah,
you know, the federal government is only doing, Anthony, the federal government is only doing now what the provincial government of Newfoundland and Labrador has been doing here in Newfoundland with ferries like Labrador, Fogo,
St. Brendan's,
wherever, yes, St. Brendan's, wherever it's too. And, you know, like, so they're not doing nothing that hasn't been done. But the only difference was Marine Atlantic had the prices so high. With the other places inside Newfoundland, the cost to travel is next to nothing. It's $5 to sit in a taxi. And, you know, you're traveling for an hour or 2 hours on a ferry for $5. So, you know, like, that don't make no sense. And, you know, when we're talking about ferries, all you hear in the news is complaint after complaint after complaint.
You're talking about provincial ferries now.
Provincial ferries now, yeah.
Yeah.
This is my opinion now. This is only my opinion, and I'm entitled to that. But if this is going to get better, the ferries, the provincial ferries, are going to have to be contracted out to an independent company who is going to put the proper ferry there and give those people, because once government got a proven track record that when they touch something, it could be gold, but all of a sudden it'll turn to stone. And, you know, like, everybody got to agree, like, the system is not working. I'll give you one example. St. Barb to Blanchard, Southern Labrador.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that's been privatized since 1970. I know that for a fact. I don't know how long before that, right? But it's working down there, and there's all kinds of, there's a minimum of 2 trips a day.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like, you don't hear those people on complaining all the time. But wherever there's a provincial ferry to, and the government has something to do with it, there's all kinds of problems. So why don't they subcontract it out and they get the proper ferry? The contractor will get the proper ferry that they need and be prepared to pay for it.
It's interesting you mentioned that ferry, because I was on it for the very first time just a few weeks ago, and it was a little bit wobbly, but the trip was very pleasant. I didn't think the price was outrageous either. But as you know, if you're a politician and are you going to run on making ferries more expensive? Because I think the fear has always been you're going to pay the price on at the polls, right? Because I think a lot of people...
You know, like, I think Fogo is a viable place for a ferry to run. I really believe Fogo is...
by a private operator?
Yes, by a private operator, but it's also a place that the ferry should be, I believe, in Newfoundland and Labrador. Like, it's a pretty, it's a prosperous place, I would think, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying the rest of the places are not, but I'm thinking that is warrant a ferry. Everybody in the world, in Canada, got a right to live to where do you want to, you know, but shouldn't expect the taxpayers of Newfoundland and Labrador to pick up the tab, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If you choose to live where you want, well, then, you know, like, that comes at a cost too.
I hear what you're saying.
So anyway, having said that,
yeah.
You know, like, I know people are not going to really agree with what I'm saying.
Well, a lot of people do.
Maybe it's a question of the day for NTV, or a question of the week, or whatever, for CBC, NTV, or VOCM.
VOCM, yeah.
Do you think there should be another resettlement across Newfoundland and Labrador?
Oh, now you're starting something.
Well, you know, people are saying it, but it's only somebody like me would get on the radio and say it.
Yeah,
know?
and I think that...
The last time there was a resettlement in Newfoundland and Labrador, I was about, I don't know. Anyway, I was only young. It done wonders for the place that people moved into where I was to. It done wonders.
Mm-hmm.
We were almost living alone, 35 families. Went up to 1,000 people. And then, you know, it done wonders for the people that moved in. And, you know, like, people met different people. People went to school with different people. And everybody lived happily ever after. But now, like, places like I'm in, well, they're dying too, right? Even though we're only an hour and 20 minutes from St. John's, you know, like, and it's people are just moving into the bigger places like Paradise and Mount Pearl, St. John's, those places, right? But there's lots of other places to move.
True.
Like CBS, CBN, like that. They pretty well got all the stuff you need, the hospitals and the taxis and everything else, right?
All the conveniences.
So what I'm saying is, you know, like, do we need another one? I'm only asking the question.
Yep, fair enough.
But I'm not, you know, I mean, like, it'd be nice, wouldn't it, Anthony, if you went to work and you went to school and you got all this training and everything that you went out and you made a six-figure paycheck. Wouldn't it be nice if that person who's done that to take 70% of that paycheck home?
Oh, yeah.
And we're not doing that. Would it be nicer in Newfoundland if you went into the store and you bought a pair of jeans or whatever the case may be, and you had 10% sales tax instead of 15% sales tax? Wouldn't it be nicer in Newfoundland if you didn't have all the roads to keep up and we had an actually good road where people lived? Because there's upsides and downsides to all of this.
There are.
You take Corner Brook there now with a new hospital. You got St. John's, they're expanding all the time. Grand Falls, Gander, those places got hospitals, you know, Clarenville.
Yeah, and they're not cheap. Listen, Peter, I appreciate you've raised a whole bunch of subjects here in the time you've been on the show, and I really appreciate you calling. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sure people will love me. Anyway, all the best to you, and take care.
You too. Yeah, sometimes some of the things you can say on the air, it's not exactly designed to build a fan club, or is it? We'll be back right after the break.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Okay, open line coming in for the landing now as we enter the final 25 minutes of the show. If you want to try to get on, if not today, then there's always tomorrow, but there's room. Give us a call here in St. John, 709-273-5211, 709-273-5211, and in the Big Land, 1-888-590-8626, and not just the Big Land, but right across the entire province of Newfoundland and Labrador, toll free. Give us a ring. Would love to hear from you. Now, some people have called in today and yesterday concerned about a pattern they see with people who they say are known to police going through the court system and being released for certain crimes and then basically being put back on the streets to commit those crimes once again. Helen Conway-Ottenheimer is the Progressive Conservative Opposition Critic for Justice and Public Safety, the MHA for Harbour, Maine, and she joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning, Anthony.
Good to talk to you again. Where would you like to begin?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that we saw it just last week. We learned that our province had the highest increase in crime rates amongst all provinces and territories. Now, so the data from Stats Canada confirmed that. Now we are seeing, we received an ATIP, after an ATIP request, we learned that the numbers of the RNC officers has dropped over the past decade, which essentially means that there are less officers on the streets. And so that's really concerning. What we need to be seeing is a trend towards more police officers, not less police officers. And I'm very concerned about the impact this is going to have on public safety.
One thing I just want to sort of clarify, I mean, it's true what you mentioned with the data that there was Newfoundland and Labrador had the highest increase in crime, but if I recall, I think when it came to serious crime, weren't we down? Doesn't that data suggest we were down like 2 or 3%?
So what it was, from my reading of the stats, Anthony, is that in Metro, I believe that the numbers were down. from one year to the next, from 2023 to 2024. But I think what we really need to be looking at is the important thing, anyway, in my view, is to look at crime stats over the 10-year period, and that data was provided. So what we saw from 2014 to 2024, the overall crime rate increased 36%, but actually from 2014 to 2024, the severe and violent crime actually rose. Only 2%, but it still rose. It increased. So that's really worrisome, because that's telling that shows that gives us the picture that over a 10-year period that we are in worse shape today than we were a decade ago. And in regards to that, I just want to point out too, we saw some surveys that came in lately, which showed that in our province that people do not feel safe. You know, compared to, for example, 5 years ago, I think it was over 73% felt less safe in our province. So these are numbers that are really concerning, and we need to see an aggressive policy by this government, and I do not see it. I do not think they're taking this seriously, and that has to be done. We need to, and I believe there are ways we can deal with these problems.
I'm just taking a look now at your ATIP, which was kindly brought to me by a helpful VOCM colleague. You're looking at 2015, 394 active officers, 2024, 379. So obviously, it'd be a population increase to serve in that same period. So yeah, that is a drop. I want to ask you about that though, because you take a look at some of the stories of the difficulties within the RNC of the last few years, and not to mention the RCMP, which has huge vacancy rates when I last checked in terms of people who are off for burnout and on leave. What's your sense of the challenge to actually recruit people who want to be a police officer these days?
Mm-hmm. And, fair question. I can, attest to the fact that has been true in the past. But any information that we've been receiving from the National Police Federation, for example, and we've been in very close contact just to make sure that we understand what's happening with respect to recruitment. And it is our understanding that recruitment is no longer an RCMP Newfoundland and Labrador issue. And they were very comfortable in asserting that is factual. And that, furthermore, that the RCMP in Newfoundland and Labrador is in the best position it's been in 10 years. So I think the recruitment thing is not as serious a concern. But what I feel is the problem here, Anthony, is that we need more officers on the street. Now, I know that some people will question that and say, well, that can't be the only, the answer, the complete answer. And I agree 100%. But it has to be the starting point. We're hearing from officers, RCMP and RNC, who say they require proper resourcing. They do not get that. They need more officers on the street. Why do they need that? Because they need to be able to, they have such high volume of calls that they need to be able to do the investigations, the undercover operations, the surveillance, the proactive policing, the preventative policing, where they're not really able to do that now. And I know that we've heard, you mentioned it, just when I called, about recidivists and about repeat offenders. And, the police and the National Police Federation with the RCMP have stated that when repeat offenders are released out on bail and they're going to continue to commit crimes, that the officers have to spend so much time, significant resources, just trying to locate, apprehend, and process them. But what they are calling on are better and smarter bail initiatives. And if we had these smart initiatives, bail reform initiatives in place, then the police can basically get back to and redirect their efforts towards things like crime prevention, and as well getting community engaged and other things that involve proactive policing. So right now they're not able to do that, and we're seeing the catch and release. We're seeing the revolving door. We're seeing no accountability. We're seeing offenders arrested by the police, and then they're let back out on the street to reoffend because officers are saying that they need more support support. They're so busy every day, even just trying to check on bail conditions. You know, they need the support. They need more officers on the ground. They need more constables on the ground, and that's a really important part. Now, yes, there's a lot of other effective crime prevention strategies which involve partnerships with community, and there's many things that can be done, you know, in terms of addressing some of the other issues. But we have to start right now. It's my view, and it's the view of the PC opposition that is the starting point, and that's not been taken seriously. And we see that even when I looked at these stats, the increase in crime stats, you know, across the country when they came out from Stats Canada last week, and I looked at the provinces that are seeing, improvements in terms of less crime, and it's because they have, doubled and tripled their officers on the ground. And so we have to support the police. They really require that proper resourcing, and this is clearly not to say that they're not doing their job. They're doing incredible work with what they have to work with.
I just want to ask you a question. I mean, I know that in the federal election, certainly bail reform came up, and crime, generally speaking, is widely viewed as a very strong issue for Conservatives, both federally and provincially. And I wonder, what would a better reformed bail system look like in your eyes?
Well, what we can do, okay, so, the bail reform, I mean, federal. There's federal jurisdiction, there's provincial, but there are things we can do here. And one of the things is a bail supervision program. I mean, the police they can't do this alone. I mean, they need the support of other types of initiatives. And so we need to see an enhanced bail supervision program. Now, I know there's been a pilot project. I really don't see that this has been playing a significant role, and it has to be brought into full capacity in our province, and it's not. And that way, if we have bail supervision, we can be, there can be community organizations or, working with probation or whatever, trying to ensure that these people if they get out on bail, that they are being monitored. And we saw the Auditor General's report back, the last report she did on adult custody, and she talked about that, and she said that the bail supervision programs and the programs that were in place were not effective. So we need to really ensure that that's done to its full capacity, which is not. And then we can ensure that, this fact that people are just getting out and then they're getting arrested, and police aren't able to keep up with that because they're so stretched thin with other responsibilities and extra duties that they have. Again, I can talk about the mental health crisis units, the mobile crisis units. We need more of them. I mean, police officers, they are not social workers. They are not mental health professionals. They should be doing the role that they want to do, which is law enforcement and law prevention. And it's not just enforcement. It's not just about arresting people. When we see a high increase of police in the community, that serves as a deterrent, in my view. That can provide, that police visibility can provide a deterrent to criminals, and especially when we see the drug crisis, which is out of control in our towns and communities in the province.
All right, Helen Conway Ottenheimer, good to speak with you again. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
All right, bye now.
Bye.
That's Helen Conway Ottenheimer, of course, the opposition critic for justice and public safety with the Progressive Conservatives, MHA for Harbour, Maine. Listen, a report now of traffic accident here in the St. John's area, a bad accident apparently at Torbay Road and Hebron Way, close to the Canadian Tire. Apparently right now traffic is backed up in all directions, so if you're in that area trying to make your way from Torbay or heading that way, you might want to try finding a different route because traffic apparently quite backed up. Again, a bad accident at Torbay Road and Hebron Way near the Canadian Tire. All right, let's get to another call. We've got Bill, who's on line 1. Hello there.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me okay?
You sound fine to me.
Okay, no, I'm just on speaker, that's all.
Right. Hey, listen, Bill, I'm sorry, can I do a favor? I didn't realize how long I'd gone with the opposition critic. Can I come back to you right after the break? I'm sorry about that, but I really got to get to that first. My bad, and we'll be right back to you, okay? Okay, winding things down on Open Line for this Tuesday, the 29th day of July, Regatta Eve. Hope you're deciding what to do wisely this evening. I think everything's going to be a go. Could be a couple of showers here and there later in the day, but right now things do look pretty good. But you never know. And don't forget to tune into your VOCM mornings bright and early, or dark and early tomorrow. Jerry Lynn will be pondside, and she'll let you know if things get the green light or not. All right, again, time for another call. Now let's go to Bill on line 1. Bill, welcome to the program.
Yes, I called about these new speed cameras.
Okay.
But if you won't mind, I'd like to pick up on what Ms. Oppenheimer.
Helen Conway Oppenheimer.
Lady was on before, the justice critic.
Yes, public safety. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So like public safety, that's so once you got the criminal or people are into criminal activity and stuff like that, then you gotta deal with that, and I guess that's what she's talking about. And but I tend to go to the other side of things. What are our dropout rates in high school, and to get it from that end, and what are the opportunities for people coming out of high school to get into say skilled trades and things like that, and the affordability of doing those 1-year programs. That'd be my. That's another tact.
Yeah, and you raise a good point, especially with youth. Taking a look at some of the statistics, it is very difficult right now, not just in this province, but for young people, and by that I mean people between the ages of 18 and 35, to find a good job. And
right. So you got to get trained up, when you can, and develop skills and things like that, and. I'd be pushing on, that's my bend. I'd be push on that end kind of thing, let's look at what are our dropout rates here in the city. And it's hard to get those numbers, Anthony.
Yeah, no, there's no question, on the societal things and the causes of crime, and, mental illness is part of that. But I think on the sharp end of criminal behavior, the problem is no matter what the causes are, and these causes are complicated, whether it's addictions or the way certain people went through whatever they went through when they were younger, it's a very complicated thing. But on the other hand, on the sharp end of things with criminal behavior, especially when it's violent, unfortunately at that point it's a little too late to sort of look back at how society was to blame, if you know what I mean.
I'm saying that I think our opportunities should be as best as they could be. I mean, we're pouring billions of dollars into our education system, and how effective is it?
Yeah.
That's the questions I'd like to buy. Let's tinker with that.
Sure.
And get our dropout rates down.
It's not all about throwing people behind bars, right?
Well, there's an old saying, right? Idle hands is devil's workshop, and stuff like that. I mean, if people have real opportunities and could make some good money, like a living wage and things like that, which they seem to be in certain skilled trades seems to be able to get it.
There's definitely a relationship between your quality of life, job satisfaction, and how you're going to behave yourself or not. Now, we only got a couple of minutes, but you wanted to had something to say about the traffic cameras?
I think speed cameras. Okay, number one. So what is the tolerance on those things? Are they going to let you get 10% over the speed limit, or is it is it a zero something? I mean, is it if it's 30 and you're doing 31, you're going to get a ticket? That's the first question I have, and then I'd like to make a point out that the one set up on Waterford Bridge Road is almost like a speed trap. I think there are a lot of people are going to get, because that's in the place where it transitions from. They got the camera in an area where it transitions from 50 to 30 kilometers an hour, and there's not even adequate signage there to show that transition right where the traffic light, right where the traffic camera is. I suspect a lot of people are going to get hammered on that one.
But aren't those pictures of little kids in a school? Aren't they on? I mean, my recollection of Waterford Bridge, there's a couple of those signs.
Oh yeah, there's pictures of kids on the school bus, and people got signs up telling you to slow down. But what happens there is the speed limit in one little stretch along where the school is supposed to drop from 50 to 30 between 7:30 and 5 o'clock or 5:30.
Right.
So it's a peculiar situation, and then so that there's no sign when you're heading east. There's no sign telling you when it drops from 50 to 30, and it just so happens that the speed camera is in the zone where, like, I know because I traveled it and I understand what goes on there. But I think that's a trap down there, and I think people are going to get hammered.
Well, that's an interesting observation. I mean, I can tell you that almost like with the legalization of marijuana, there was the communities that have brought in these speed cameras have been, I'm not saying it's a speed trap, but there's no question that the communities that have brought in other jurisdictions, Ontario and Alberta, which is getting rid of them, some of them, they have certainly seen a revenue increase when they've brought these things in. But you make a good point.
I'm saying it that the way that's set up down there now, it is a speed trap.
Okay, listen, I got to wrap things up for today, Bill, but I really appreciate you calling.
Okie doke.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okie doke.
All right.
Okay,
see you
bye
now.
now.
All right. It's been another busy show. It's gone by like this, and I appreciate all the calls, and we shall do this again tomorrow. So thanks on my behalf, as well as Dave Williams.